Hi everyone, my name is Camelia and I work with reconnect and rehydrate techniques, helping people come back to their body and nurture their relationship to movement with more ease. I work one-on-one online and of course in person if you're around me. I wanted to share a bit around meditation and working with your attention, because I've been in this business as a practitioner and searcher for a long time, and I think sometimes teachers can earnestly try to convey what they've learned by traveling to India or Thailand or developing a practice. As they start teaching, they earnestly try to convey the benefits of meditation, but sometimes fail to have an understanding on or context of how different neurological setups can affect our interaction with meditation or movement with awareness. So I want to be very specific in regards to a general cue, and the language can be anything around don't think, try not to think, try to relax, keep it simple, and any kind of language to that effect. Now, what are they trying to achieve with that kind of cue? Like, what are they trying to instigate as a neurological regulation in your body? Because basically what meditation is all about, and I'm going to use the word meditation very loosely because it could be offensive to certain spiritual practices to say that you can practice meditation, because meditation is a state of awareness that arises when you're very deeply grounded and open and connected with your body, and you're very regulated in your autonomic nervous system functions like heart rate, blood pressure, etc., etc., etc. So what are they trying to say when they're telling you, let's not think so much, keep it simple, try to relax? In my opinion, these are not good cues to give, because if a person could not think, they wouldn't be trying to meditate. They're usually coming to meditation because they are wanting to find more balance in their life, to regulate their stress levels a bit better, to try to not overthink things. These are responses, so cognitive responses to autonomic nervous system dysregulation. So if you've experienced trauma or stress, your body might escalate the nervous system response towards a more sympathetic regulation of your autonomic nervous system functions like breathing and blood regulators and heartbeat regulators. So what does it mean, a sympathetic response? It's the colloquial name for sympathetic nervous system response is fight and flight response. So part of a fight and flight response, it usually means that you subdue your capacity to rest and digest or procreate. And you escalate, you go more into sending blood towards the big muscles of your quads, your arms, your back, and so you're prepping for running or fighting. Now, it would be great if you ran and fought for a bit, because that would use up that energy. Very often in urban environments, in our contemporary lifestyles, we don't run or fight. We sit at a desktop. So when we go into a fight or flight mode, that energy gets locked up into our nervous system and in our physical tissues as stuck stress. It might start clutching your lower back muscles, over clutching them to the point where they don't release, and they start to inhibit nerves and blood supply. Pain is usually a symptom of lack of oxygen to the nerves. So these are all physical responses to stress and to a dysregulated, upscaled sympathetic nervous system. But there are also cognitive effects that come from this. A big trauma response or a prolonged stress condition will drain blood from your brain and towards the big muscles, and it will produce sensations, and these sensations will feed your frontal cortex. Because please know, and this is something that a lot of meditation teachers fail to understand, I think, especially Westerners, that thinking is not a mental activity. Thinking comes from feeling. We are only able to have thoughts because we have sensory input in the body. So when I start to walk, if you're doing walking meditation and you're focusing on left, right, or the state of walking or whatever you want to be focusing, sometimes for sensitive people or people that have experienced stress, their mind is hypervigilant. So they go into a state where their cognitive capacities is very sharpened towards observing differences. So they might sense in with a difference between the right and the left a lot more than a person that's not in a stress response. And this difference will produce a thought. It will be like, oh, this is different. Or I'm feeling more weight on my right, or my glute is activating faster on my right side or on my left side. It doesn't matter. It's a thought that arises, and then you might start to have the next thought, because they usually like our mind is very associative. Then you might think, is that okay? Should I go back to sensing in with the left foot? Should I be worried? Like the associations start to progress. But bear in mind that this hypervigilant mind, this overthinking mind, does not come from a non-feeling body. It might be that you're not feeling your pelvis area. You might be locked up in your pelvis area. So that can upscale sensation in a different area. And that's the whole science behind pain. You might not be feeling somewhere, but generally a hypervigilant mind, a overthinking mind, is not a product of a non-feeling body. It usually is a product of a stressed out, hypersensitive body. So instead of asking students, or if you're a student and you're working with a teacher like that, please know that cue that they're giving you, like, oh, don't think so much, is not a very enlightened cue, in my opinion, and it might produce even more tension in you or anxiety. And then they might start having a discussion with you about, and if you say like, oh, but I'm not trying to think too much or whatever, they might start having a conversation with you about your ego and not taking it personally and all that crap, where they're actually overinflating their own ego. But please know that it is very normal for a mind that's stressed or hypervigilant or dealing with pain or trauma to have more thoughts. And instead of fighting with your mind, you could allow for those thoughts to be there, and just know that your mind at the moment is hypervigilant or overthinking. And not worry about trying to achieve the state of non-thinking. There are ways to encourage a hyperthinking, like a mind that's hypervigilant or sensing too much, a very sensitive mind, to calm down. Because why do we want to calm down? Because we want to come out of the frontal cortex, which actually uses up a lot of oxygen once we're thinking too much. That's like it's a stress response. We're trying to solve a problem solving mind. When I was young, I used to put that on my cover, letter, like I'm a really great problem solver. But actually, it was just the result of me being a little bit hyper vigilant and suffering with trauma and being being way too good in my thinking mind and less good in my rest and digest space. So why do we want to not think so much? Because when we overthink, we're using up all the oxygen in the frontal cortex, and it might actually take away nourishment and oxygen from cellular processes, and reviving and just revitalizing the cells and fluid exchange, and it might lead to stagnation, inflammation, and then deterioration of organs, first of cells and then organs. So we do want to balance our ability to upscale the nervous system, act, react, but also rest and digest, and taking the blood back to the organs and being able to repair. Because we live in gravity, we experience stress on a daily basis. We need that time to rest and repair. So instead of engaging with a cue such as like don't think too much, because that's very conceptual, it's not an executable cue. You could think about feeling your heel on the ground, or if you're sitting, feeling your sit bones, which is this bone at the bottom of your pelvis, or feeling your butt cheeks on the ground. That already takes you back into the body. It reconnects you, and it's something that is material and you actually can do, as opposed to don't think so much, which is not something you can do. If you're in a stress response, you need to reconnect to your body so that you stop thinking so much. So this is something that I just wanted to share and put out there. A lot of people turn to yoga and meditation to deal with traumatic events or a trauma-induced mind or a trauma-affected mind. And in that kind of state, it can be difficult to get to the state where you're in your body, reconnected with your body, and you're resting and repairing, which is actually a state from which meditation arises. So you cannot even meditate before you could regulate your autonomic nervous system, the sympathetic and parasympathetic nervous system, and the central nervous system communication with the periphery. So it's a preparation, and that preparation to regulating your nervous system might take some time. So we do little tastes of regulating, and we see how that affects us, but we don't stress out or try to force our mind to stop thinking, because it just doesn't work that way. You have to find a way to regulate your body. And that's where I feel the melt method is really good, because it improves the environment within which our neuroreceptors in our periphery live, the connective tissue, the fascia. And by improving the texture, it improves the connection with the central nervous system, and it deregulates the stress response. So it allows us to come back into the body. If we're oversensitized through compression of nerves, bad posture, dysfunctional gait, where we're compressing our fascia in the environment within which the neurons live, we begin to create inflammation and a stressed out environment in our body, and our central nervous system, which is our brain, starts to react by starting to problem solve, and it might not be. That's why we practice awareness of our body, to try to locate where the stress is, but we don't want to over focus. Once we locate the stress, we don't want to now meditate on our pain. That's not healthy. We meditate on positive symbols, not on negative symbols. You have to be a very experienced practitioner. I certainly wouldn't do it. I do it out of inexperience, that I might over meditate, like an obsessive thought on a certain discomfort in my body, but it certainly does not serve me. And it is a very healthy skill to learn to be able to move your awareness, to locate stress, and then move your awareness to sense what else is there in the body. Because usually when we're experiencing stress, there is a part of us that we have disconnected from. I wanted to share this because I had a beautiful 3 weeks in Bulgaria in nature, spending time reconnecting with my Thai meditation practice. And some of these concepts, in talking to meditation teachers and remembering some of the concepts that I engaged with in 2016, which at that time I didn't have the neurofascial background to understand some of the practices that they teach you in Thailand, in a meditation space. And now I understand it much better, and I understand much better the necessity to be able to deal with a person where they are at, and not ask them to achieve a state of meditation while they're just trying to practice getting back into the body. So I hope this talk is helpful, and I will try to start showing a few movements, because it might be that my videos could be too much in terms of understanding what I'm saying without having a body experience of what I'm saying. But from this talk just now, you could just take your awareness and sense in with one heel if you're standing up, or one butt cheeks if you're sitting down, or one side of the back if you're lying in your bed. And then move your awareness to the other side and sense how the other side feels. And then notice if, after doing those two awareness practices, if there is a change in the way you breathe, or in your sensation in your body. Have a great day.